Halo is smarter than you think. I love Halo. I always loved Halo. Will always love Halo. So let's check it out.
I have a question. What made the original Bungie run of Halo feel so purposeful? In comparison to games today, why does Halo feel so grand in the way it portrayed itself? There are a lot of correct answers to this question, but to me, it's not so simple. Until I explain it in the next sentence. Halo has an intense love affair with poetry. Because of this, it uses a literary veneer to add levels of sincerity and mysticism to the games. Maybe you've seen it, but you've never been able to put your finger on it.
I think that like what is just talked about is actually something that makes Halo really stand out compared to a lot of like game franchises, is that it's military, right? But like they added some mysticism. He actually pointed the right word. He actually said the right word. It's the mysticism of Halo that actually makes Halo what Halo is, and I think that made Halo so successful. Because a lot of games share the same trait, but there isn't this like mystery that Halo has. Yeah, I don't understand myself. Maybe I'm wrong about it. Well, I believe that the mysticism in Halo is really something that made the game feel really different from other games.
Today, we will learn just how Halo ignores the medium and becomes poetry in motion. For Halo is unabashedly one giant interactive narrative poem in video game form. Okay, let's get on the same page here. Halo is one of the most important and acclaimed video game franchises ever made. It hardly needs an introduction. Few games capture the highs and lows of Halo while also being a cultural phenomenon. The series' steady rise as each new entry took hold of more and more gamers is an occurrence that needs to be academically studied, for it led to arguably the biggest cultural moment in gaming history, that being the build-up and release of Halo 3. The game that wrapped a beautiful bow around the franchise. As players finished the fight, the legend of the Master Chief would be put on ice, and its multiplayer would thrive for over a decade. Every day, countless memories were being made on servers all around the world. The game's engine was being used as a tool for early online content creation, and the series would crescendo with the release of Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach. The original Halo spree was an unrivaled moment in gaming history. If players weren't being endlessly entertained by the multiplayer, they were dissecting and appreciating the phenomenal storytelling. Theories are being crafted, mysteries are being solved, and resonance was being burned into the hearts of millions. One important thing you would notice about Halo's narrative is the minimalist storytelling philosophy. It took me at least 2 playthroughs to actually kind of understand what was unfolding before my eyes, and that was before I did an extensive lore dive and finally honed in on what the series was trying to say. For whatever reason, this always stuck with me. Why was Halo told the way it was? Why did everything feel so mythological in scale? Well, it's like I said before, this is where Halo takes cues from the literary works that inspired the storytelling, one of the biggest being the Aeneid by Virgil, an epic Latin poem that tells the story of Aeneas, a Trojan hero who seeks to fulfill his destiny of establishing a new city in Italy after the fall of Troy, the city eventually evolving into what we all know as ancient Rome. Like any epic poem, there are a series of characteristics that need to be met. Usually, the story begins in the middle of a conflict. The events occur over a vast setting. There's some sort of divine intervention involved, and the hero represents the values of humanity as a whole. If you think of any Western epic, it has to include a strong, almost demigod-like protagonist. Beowulf, the Iliad, the Odyssey, even legends like King Arthur. They all follow this almost perfect realization of a human man in a story much, much bigger than themselves. Oh, would you look at that? Halo does it to a T. Combat Evolved begins right off the back of Reach, the most devastating loss humanity.
It is true, because like John 117 represents this the soldier willing to do anything for the greater good, to find a solution. And this is actually something that is really beautiful, and something that you actually don't notice because it is in the lack of opinions of John that actually like this quality is found, not because he does choices, but because he choose not to do choices, which is really fascinating.
He has experienced yet. We're taken from system to system, planet to planet throughout this journey. Hell, it ends at the very edge of the galaxy, and we play none other than the Master fucking Chief, the 7-foot-tall freak that steps on the heads of grunts while Breaking Benjamin blasts out of his JBL speaker. Going back to the Aeneid, what connects this to Halo is the overall theme of securing the self by defeating the other. Both Halo and the Aeneid tell a story about an especially gifted hero defeating enemies who would be too much for people like us. But Halo's love affair with poetry goes even deeper than this. You might be surprised to learn that this relationship dates back to before the first game even released.
You've got mail.
This is one of the many emails sent to Bungie fans in 1999, known colloquially as the Cortana letters. As a means of building up hype and speculation for what would become Halo, these letters gave a vague understanding of what the story was set to in 1999.
Okay, so this is a mail. I have walked the age of the abyss. I have governed the unwilling. I have witnessed countless empire break before me. I have seen the most courageous soldiers fall away in fear. I was there with the angel at the tomb. I have seen your future, and I have learned. There will be no more sadness, no more anger, no more envy. I have won. Oh, and your poet Eliot had it all wrong. This is the way the world ends. A friend of a friend. Beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful.
Known colloquially as the Cortana letters, as a means of building up hype and speculation for what would become.
And this is technically like lore-wise from Cortana.
Halo, these letters give a vague understanding of what the story was set to tell. The final lines of the letter read, "Oh, and your poet Eliot had it all wrong. This is the way the world ends. A friend of a friend." Now, obviously, this is a reference to T.S. Eliot's poem, The Hollow Men, a poem about the cultural decay of a post-World War I society and the emptiness behind the eyes of men in this era. Eliot's work is rooted in deep existentialism, something the Halo series leans into as the fate of humanity as a whole is being threatened. Eliot was also one of the major figureheads behind the modernist art movement, a vision of life and society that emphasized experimentation, abstraction, and dramatic nuance, something the Halo series can relate to in the modern day, as its experimentation and cinematic edge introduced the basis for the first-person shooter on a console. But that's not all. When Combat Evolved released on November 15th, 2001, players were met with an experience that changed everything. On the story end of things, many were impressed with the general presentation and witty character writing, but under the surface, it didn't take long for fans to glean that Halo had deep religious undertones. Everything from the Flood to Halo and even Master Chief's name contained religious metaphor and allegory that strengthened the storytelling. Now, one of the many literary
What is absolutely brilliant, what is absolutely so skillful is that these religious undertones are not hidden, but never talked about, and never really a problem for the storytelling or for like people that actually like dislike like religion, or like it just basically like small tributes to religion rather than I mean, I get what I'm saying.
aspects of the Bible is its poetic nuance, which undoubtedly brushes against Halo even more in that regard. Aside from this, however, when we meet the Master Chief for the first time, we also get a reference to Josh Keats' poem, To Sleep, a poem that personifies sleep as the speaker begs for the sweet escape of unconsciousness, to escape the physical and emotional torment of being awake. Aside from being the realest shit I've ever heard, this is no doubt a reference to the depressing reality humanity faces at this point in history. When we begin the game, the text on the monitor next to Chief's cryopod asks players to unseal the hushed casket, a twist on the final line of the poem. Speaking of sleeping in caskets, this video is brought to you by Mantis Sleep. We all know by this point that sleep is vital to our overall health and well-being, yet that doesn't stop us from sabotaging our own sleeping habits. Even if we get to bed at a reasonable time, there are still a million distractions that always get us. Lights flashing from the window, your phone illuminating in the middle of the night, or the spooky shadow man watching you from the hallway. It's distractions like these that call for a complete blackout. Nothing does blackout better than the Mantis Sleep Mask. A headpiece that not only fits my face like a well-tailored suit, but is incredibly cool and breathable. Combo this with the classic Thunder and Rain with Halo 3 ODST piano 8 hours sleep and relaxation, and you get a good night's rest like no other. The Mantis Sleep Mask is infinitely adjustable and ridiculously comfortable. Not only is it made out of a premium, well-ventilated material, you get true 100% blackout with this thing. Seriously, it's a game changer if you were in an obnoxiously bright environment. On the plane, in the car, casual naps at home. As long as you are wearing this thing, you will never see the light of day again. Get your Mantis Sleep Mask today. Use code LANDO at checkout for 10% off. Thank you Mantis Sleep for sponsoring this video, and thank you for watching it. Enjoy. Now finally we get to Halo 3. The E3 2006 reveal trailer is one of the most legendary reveals of all time. I mean, it had been 2 years since Halo 2 left fans on a premature cliffhanger. Suffice to say, expectations were through the roof. One thing of note this trailer does is call back to the non-canonized Cortana letters from 1999. Specifically the one that references T.S. Eliot.
This is the way the world ends.
Upon release, many discovered that Bungie took the non-canonized Cortana letters from 1999 to stir up fan speculation, an odd but interesting choice that incentivized theory crafting within the community. Now of course this all ties back into T.S. Eliot's poem, The Hollow Man, the second poem that reflects the themes of the Halo franchise. Halo uses the voice of T.S. Eliot to portray a poetic philosophy. You see, Eliot believed that humanity had become a wallowing shell of glory, paralyzed by inaction and moral deterioration. That's why he defined modernism in his poetry. There are no protagonists, no antagonists, just these barren settings for lives to waste themselves in. Halo 3 is war at a galactic scale. It's rampant villainy on all sides of the spectrum, with the lesser evil winning the fight. Eliot believed that the only way to save humanity from its lost ways was to reconcile art, spirituality, and the soul with human action, and no one represents human action more than the Master Chief. This is where we can finally establish how Halo storytelling is poetic in its very nature. From the very beginning, when we unsealed the hushed casket, we had been playing a narrative poem inspired by humanity's art of despair. You know as well as I do that Halo has very minimalist storytelling in such a maximalist universe, but it constantly gives you just enough to motivate you, while it begs you to ponder the grander implications of its story, much like how the great epic poems developed throughout history are endlessly dissected and appreciated for their subtext. It's something the human brain can't help but enjoy. Poetry activates the human mind to recognize its rhythms and patterns, much like how you slowly recognize the rhythms and patterns of the gameplay loop. Poetry allows the brain to contemplate its imagery and layered meanings, much like how Halo uses religious imagery to further the overtone of its narrative. Poetry doesn't waste a single word. Everything from the pronunciation to the placement of the word is deliberate in how it strengthens the story around it, much like how every line in Halo is either a means of progression or a Shakespearean exchange between incredibly passionate actors.
Relax. I'd rather not piss this thing off.
Demon.
its machine and nerve, and has its mind concluded. This one is but flesh and faith, and is the more deluded.
Kill me or release me, parasite. But do not waste my time with talk.
To add to this, let's examine Halo's greatest antagonist, the mind behind the parasitic flood, the Gravemind. This ancient intelligence primarily speaks in trochaic heptameter, a poetic meter with a long history of use in English literature. Trochaic meter follows a stressed-unstressed pattern, da-dum, while heptameter consists of 7 pairs of syllables per line. This rhythmic structure gives the Gravemind a foreboding, chant-like tone, reinforcing the eerie and timeless nature of its consciousness, further deepening the unsettling presence of the Flood. Now, a lot of this can be attributed to how little time Bungie had to flesh out their story, but by cutting off the fat and leaning into the brisk nature of a poem, we were left with a very special experience that doesn't waste time. When it's not about the beat-to-beat gameplay, it's about the short, sweet bits of substance that leaves room for the imagination. Poetry purposely leaves things open-ended for interpretation, much like how the moral and emotional story beats of Halo are clouded by Bungie's indirect means of storytelling. This perspective on the series breaks open Halo's love affair with poetry. It offers a completely different lens on the Halo franchise that was right in our face the entire time. But what if I told you it goes even deeper than this? If the Halo trilogy is about humanity as a whole, using Master Chief as their vessel, then what happens when the lens focuses on you? What if you were placed in the shoes of a Marine, set to brave the never-ending influx of Covenant? And what if there was a poem with a direct through line to that? Halo is in many ways the Zelda of the first-person shooter. I will not elaborate, but if we base Halo off of Zelda, the Majora's Mask of the series is most certainly Halo 3 ODST, the noir sci-fi mystery shooter that took a lot of the major assets from Halo 3 and reworked them to fit a moodier narrative. This game is shrouded in discovery, hidden dialogue exchanges, secret rooms, as well as a missable side objective that adds more context to the main story. A story with a hyperfixation on a small squadron of orbital drop shock troopers, or as many like to call them, hell jumpers. This game sticks out in a very strange way. Why did Bungie feel the need to tell this story? The events seen coincide with the second half of Halo 2, and we already know where the story is heading. What purpose does the story of a random ODST rookie serve in the grand scheme of things? Nothing.
To reshape, I think that like it's really a beautiful take, and ODST, but also Reach really allows for perspective that is actually worth experiencing within the universe of Halo.
On the surface, it's a game about getting intel that is vital to the war, but emotionally, it's here to show you just how hellish this universe is when you are not John 117. We begin trapped in an inescapable war, forced to take action, and drop into hell itself. Once the drop is interrupted, we are knocked out cold. Hours pass before we wake in the desolate streets of New Mombasa. Everything from the moody atmosphere to the anxiety-addled music adds to this listless feeling we get wandering these streets. Whatever happened here, humanity lost, and you are all alone, set to find the remnants of your team. Bungie did something deliberate here. While the poetic nuance of the Halo series proper was much more subtle, ODST, and especially the side narrative known as Sadie's story, does not hold back in mirroring one of the most important literary works ever created. A narrative poem that features Virgil of Rome as a prominent character and is explicitly referenced in T.S. Eliot's The Hollow Men. I am of course talking about the 14th century masterpiece, The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri. More specifically, Dante's Inferno. As I stated before, Halo is no stranger to religious themes. A lot of Western media is based on Christianity. It's a consequence of building a society around it. However, as we know, Halo leans into its religious themes more than your typical space opera would. It's a godless universe in which war is being waged for religious reasons. But Dante's Inferno is not biblical. In fact, it's basically Bible fanfiction. Now, for the uninitiated, Dante's Inferno is the first part of the Divine Comedy, which is largely one of the most important works of human art ever created, for it conceptualized the visuals of the various afterlives you assume under Christianity. So basically, if you ever wondered why hell is depicted as a blisteringly hot cave with spooky red people poking and burning you, you have this guy to blame. With that though, the Divine Comedy's most famous part is Inferno, mainly because its ideas of hell and torment were so shocking and creative for the time. I mean, this is the genesis of dark fantasy, a topic my friend Pumpo made a very good video about, so after this video you should watch that video. I will know if you didn't. To put it simply, Inferno is about Dante's journey through the 9 circles of hell: limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy, violence, fraud, and treachery. He is guided by his ultimate inspiration, that being the ancient Roman poet Virgil, and along his journey he sees the blight of humanity in its worst form. In almost every circle Dante observes, he talks with one of the tormented souls being punished, in which they tell Dante their story. Dante usually approaches the sinners with pity, but after they tell their tale, if he's not bewitched by their nakedness, he'll usually scold them and say, "Get what you fucking deserve!" It's dumb by itself, but in the context of Purgatorio and Paradiso, the storytelling makes much more sense and is incredibly forward for its time. Halo ODST uses Inferno to further its spirit, but how? It's widely known that it takes aspects of the poem for its story, but to what extent? For this video, I thought it would be fun to read Inferno alongside ODST, and what I came to understand was enlightening. Dante's Inferno by itself is largely about Dante acknowledging his own sin through engaging in cruelty towards those who deserve it, the worst aspects of men displayed in unapologetic horror. It's an incredibly human story about human pain, envy, and wrath, and coincidentally, ODST is the most human story within the Halo universe. When I first began this journey, I wrote down a lot. From the get-go, there were clear homages to Inferno and the concept of hell as a whole. I won't get into the nitty-gritty because I tried and I didn't like that video, so instead, I'll share my overall personal observation as an example. Now, atmosphere-wise, ODST really wants you to feel and understand the dire nature of the world. There is a clear absence of color, fire is raging through the rain, and demons lurk in the shadows. Alongside the clear homage to hell, ODST utilizes a Y2K aesthetic and feel to enhance the death of New Mombasa, the embrace of technology, the synthetic infrastructure, an air of nostalgia. It's clear that the most poignant way to convey a world-ending event was to embody a time relevant to the most recent theorized world-ending event. This liminal feeling whilst traversing through the city gives us our first taste of hell, perfectly conveying the first circle of Inferno, Limbo, the resting place of souls who lived and died without knowing God or Christ. The souls in Limbo are not punished directly, but are condemned to desire salvation. It's a fairly tame punishment in comparison to the rest of hell, but it's still unfair for those who lived before or without the means of knowing Christ. Despite living virtuous lives, every soul there is filled with depression, melancholy, and hopelessness. An eerily similar feeling of hopelessness as you step over your dead comrades and discover unnerving clues. The punishment of Limbo is to be left in search of salvation. Here in the Mombasa streets, we find many who had no means of it at all, including yourself. The Rookie is supposed to be a self-insert for the story, a silent protagonist with a single mission in mind. Personally, I view this lack of character as a representation of the indifference souls have while stuck in limbo, who got by but not with any real passion or faith in what they believed in. The Rookie is just another hollow man, a nameless soldier only there to follow orders and be the player's surrogate while Virgil leads us into hell. Yes, despite being physically alone, someone is watching us. Someone with a stranglehold on the city's urban infrastructure. Signs are explicitly being activated and misused by something named Virgil to guide us through the streets of hell, an homage to Inferno that is as clear as day. There are parallels like this all throughout ODST that lean into the poetic allegory here.
I wonder how much more there is if he, since he actually like only talked about a few games of the franchise, I wonder how much more there is. I'm just curious about that.
When the game re-releases here soon on PlayStation and Switch, and it will, I highly recommend playing the game for yourself to see what other connections you can make. It's a fun exercise, but Inferno is a very hard read. But my friends, it's at this point in which I need to wrap things up. ODST uses Inferno, big deal. What does that actually do in the grand scheme of things? What was ODST trying to say with its poetic devices? I'm getting there. Calm down. Calm down. Sit down. Settle down. Thank you. Inferno dissects humanity at its worst. It's there to humble us as we acknowledge our own shortcomings as human beings. Despite literally being in hell, the only thing Dante is concerned about is his hometown of Florence. The poet was exiled for political reasons, and it's clear that this fueled the fire when writing the Divine Comedy, in which he constantly asks the tormented souls of hell to describe the state his beloved city is in. Dante's greatest sorrow comes from the loss he feels when he thinks about his once great city. ODST is a direct adaptation of that. It asks players to contemplate what it means to be alive when bigger issues are at hand. The near destruction of Earth is insignificant in spite of the galaxy's problems. Everything in Halo is so vast that everything else seems so insignificant. What can we do? What do we do when things out of our control change our lives beyond recognition? How do we escape the limbo we find ourselves in, this constant societal depression we get from simply existing in such historical times? The sad part is that 2009's Halo 3 ODST does not have an answer for you. But what we can do is look at the great poets of humanity and see what they did when the world was on the brink of a crisis. They made art, using it to personify evil and overcome it. When I started this video, I was initially planning on just doing a horror deep dive into ODST and how it relates to Inferno, but as I read all of this poetry and unraveled how it related to Halo, I was inspired to do something more. I highly encourage you to do something similar. Go out and do something creative today. Whatever it is, that is your luxury. Whether it's analyzing some dumbass video game or painting the next Mona Lisa. Take the negativity you feel from the world around you and put it into something you hope will move people. Take some notes from Halo, see if you can add some levels of subtext to it that furthers its meaning. You have the resources to do it, so why not? Thank you for watching my video, and especially
This is such a great message to end your video with.
a big thank you to my patrons for supporting me. If you would like to have your name here on screen right now, you should consider supporting me on patreon.com/LandoYT. Not
Thank you so much.
only will you get your silly little name on the screen, you'll also receive benefits like access to my personal game review newsletter, Code Cleric. There is an in-depth review of every single Bungie Halo game live on my Patreon right now, so please go check that out if you feel so inclined. Stay healthy out there, don't do anything stupid, and come back to my channel when I post a new video. I'll do it eventually. You guys are great. Thank you. Bye. What? I have a question.
This was a great video. Thank you, Lando, for this video. Subscribe to and leave a like if you. And yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much.